So let's dispel a gun myth really quickly. I see this discussion a lot, especially when people post up pictures of these targets that are supposed to help you diagnose where you're shooting. And there's some truth to those targets, and there's some stuff that I think is less than truth. And here's one that I always debate with people, and it's the one that shows if you put too much trigger finger in the gun, you're going to pull the gun this way, or if you don't put enough trigger finger in the gun, you're going to push it that way. You know, the opposite of, if you're strong-handed and too much finger, you're going to pull it to your strong side, and too little finger, you push it to your weak side. So I want to prove that that's not true. If you have the ability to put the very middle of either last part of your digit on the trigger, does that help you pull the trigger properly? Sure it does. It's probably the best place for you to have dexterity and leverage at the same time. That's if your finger's not too long or not too short for how the gun fits in your hand. I teach plenty of, especially smaller females, that their hand doesn't even come enough around to get that part of their finger on there. And then I've had a guy on the range that's like 6'11", and his finger, a full-size Glock looked like a subcompact in his hand. There was no way he was going to use the very tip of his finger without his hand looking like this. Okay, so he has to adjust. What those targets tend to do is make people think they're absolutes. Is it an absolute that if you jerk the trigger and you're right-handed, you're going to shoot low into the left? No. But jerking the trigger makes it more likely that you're going to unconsciously anticipate the recoil and drop low into the left. Does putting too much of your finger, is it an absolute that you're going to pull the gun this way? No, but it is easier to pull the gun that way if you tighten your whole hand instead of just your finger. So these targets it's good information, and typically if you follow the principle of the target, it will help you shoot better. But there's a deeper principle, and it's not as complicated as the targets make it seem like. You hold the gun in your hand, you squeeze the trigger slow and smooth, you put the front sight right on top of what you want to shoot, at the same time have it centered and level with the top of the rear sight, and you're going to hit the target right where you aimed every single time, the end. And to prove it, what I've got is 9 rounds loaded up, and you'll see on the target, this square is for too much finger, this square is for too little finger, and this is the air quotes proper finger placement on the target. So I'm going to run this target out. These are 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch squares. This is going to be kind of ghetto because I'm doing it with my phone. So I'm going to actually shoot one-handed here and use the other hand to video and try to get it where you can actually see where on the finger my trigger is. Or wait a minute. Where on the trigger my finger is. So 9 rounds, 3 at each target. This top one was too much trigger finger. So I'm gonna hold the gun really weird. Okay, doesn't get much more trigger finger than that, right? Okay, so I'll let the camera watch the trigger while I try to shoot if I can line all that up. I don't even know if it's on the screen. I limp wristed it. All right, back to too much trigger finger. All right, so that was 3 with too much trigger finger. Now let's do 3 with too little trigger finger. I'm just gonna very barely put just enough to get the grip safety engaged, okay? Once again, still a really goofy grip to make that happen. Too little trigger finger. All right, and then the last 3, proper trigger finger placement. Right there on the tip of that last part of my finger, the middle part of the last part of my finger. All right, weapons clear and empty. Let's bring the target back and see what happens. Amaze balls. They all kind of look the same. I'm not a whole lot worried about where they are in relation to the little orange sticker. Yeah, these touched it, these didn't, and these didn't, but I'm watching the camera at the same time I'm trying to watch, the gun, and I'm holding it in a goofy way. So the point is the group size. Yeah, this one's smaller. The proper trigger finger is small because one of them keyholed. But holding the gun the way I'm holding it and trying to shoot this way, I promise, is the spurious factor that has any difference between these two trigger groups. In fact, I could probably prove that. All right, I've ran the target back out there. I've got 9 more rounds. I get you can't see me shooting. I am going to shoot 2 hands this time, and I'm going to be able to get a better grip on the weapon. Just trust me. I have nothing to prove to anybody. I'm going to use the same trigger pulls I did before. So these first 3, way too much trigger finger. I've got the middle part. I mean, I'm past the joint and at the middle part of my finger. So I physically can't put more trigger in there, or finger in there. Alright, those were 3 with too much trigger finger. Same thing on the second one as before. Just enough trigger, just barely enough finger on the trigger to get the trigger safety engaged. It's hard to even pull the trigger that way. I keep sliding off the trigger safety. Alright, and these last 3 with proper trigger finger placement according to the targets. All right. Amazing. This isn't on the target or on the sticker, but it's irrelevant. I just pulled the first one a little bit because the orange was disappearing in the shadow, and then just put the front side over the hole instead of over the sticker to keep the group integrity. But I think the point is made. It doesn't matter where you put your trigger finger, okay? It doesn't matter. Hey, you on the internet that still doesn't believe me. Yeah, you're wrong. You're wrong. You and your whole face is wrong right now with your little face expression behind your keyboard. You're wrong. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.